Clive Bloom, let's put what happened in Tottenham after the death of Mark Duggan to one side and look at what's happened since then. What do you think has prompted it?
Well, I think one thing that's prompted it is pretty clearly that we've ignored the fact that we haven't dealt with these inner city poverty-stricken areas for 30 years since Brixton and Broadwater Farm, and they've imploded. And this implosion has now actually spilt onto the streets, or sort of exploded, if you like. And we're finally getting the results of that. What's happened is this has become an excuse, in a sense, for aspirational rioting. This is aspirational rioting, people buying things that they want.
Okay, but you mentioned Brixton and Broadwater, both of which had a racial element. This doesn't.
No,
or at least after the initial one.
No, it doesn't. But it has the element that these people feel themselves to be disenfranchised. They've turned in on themselves, created their own sense of esteem, self-esteem through gangs. We've heard about this before, etc. And this is now on the streets.
Okay, Sam Guimard, do you agree with that?
Well, I agree with Clive to the extent that this is not a racial issue. But I would say that what we're seeing is a dangerous sense of entitlement and lack of responsibility. Dangerous sense of entitlement because if I want this and if I can smash down a shop window, I should get it. And a lack of responsibility that results in setting up a 140-year-old furniture store ablaze. But where does this come from is where I disagree with Clive. He said we've turned our backs on inner cities, and this is a result of poverty and a lack of aspiration. But I think this is a result of the breakdown in the family unit. Character doesn't need poverty to build character. And when I say character, I mean the sense of responsibility that comes from being brought up properly. For example, you ask yourself, when these kids go home with, 4 new pairs of Adidas trainers, a plasma TV, is someone actually saying to them, hang on a second, my son, my daughter, where did you get this from?
Is it, Clive Bloom, the problem lies within the family?
I don't think that's straightforward. I mean, family units are upheld really by economic security. Where there's no economic security, where the black market, drug dealing, etc. prevails, where people have to be out at work very late at night cleaning or doing other things, where the biological parent isn't necessarily at home for the child, there's a real problem about how you do create a family unit anymore. I think the family unit idea, for me, is defunct.
You wrote yesterday that those who've grown up in a world where social identity comes from consumption find themselves barred in times of economic hardship except by theft, suggesting that there is this, the way that what we value in society now is what is driving this.
Absolutely. Well, I think so. It seems to me what people wear, the actual outward show on the streets of what you're wearing, what you've got, is what gives you self-esteem.
Sam Guimard.
I mean, there is the old Jesuit maxim which says, give me the boy at 7 and I'll give you the man. Whatever the economic circumstances are, nothing justifies the criminality and the breakdown in law and order that we've seen in the last few weeks. And there are some people who in the last few hours have been saying, maybe this is because of cuts, again tying into the economic argument. But I refuse to believe that the 11-year-old who was arrested, reportedly arrested 2 days ago, has been politically and economically radicalized by the cuts. We've had this issue going back to the Blair years when we're talking about ASBOs and antisocial behavior orders. This has been going on for a long time. I think it's about time that we talk about responsibility.
But why now? Why has it come up now? Because that's what, one of the things you could say, perhaps it could have happened a year ago, it could have happened 10 years ago, but it didn't. This seems to be on a wider level than that.
Yes, you're right to say there is a wider canvas here. And, the current economic situation doesn't help. But I think that doesn't justify moral neutrality.
I mean, the obvious answer is to this. It seems that the criminality we're seeing on the streets, is simply a symptom of other things going on in, if you like, the inner city poverty-stricken areas. So what we're seeing here is the spilling over of those terrible problems of family breakdown, non-attendance at church, whatever you want to say, onto our streets. You can't put the family back. How are you going to put the family back? So the moral rules that the rest of us play by aren't the rules of gang life.
Okay, so just briefly, the solution for both of you, from you, comes from where? From the state, Clive Bloom?
I don't think it necessarily comes from the state. It comes from a whole series of areas, but it's going to need money.
Sam Guimard.
We can't outsource parenting to the state. Parents have got to bring up their children in so that they respect and they're responsible and that they have a sense of community. And that's what I think the solution is.